Sorry, I'm talking quiet. There we go. We Gucci Mane. I like that we're in. You know what? I'm going to save this observation for when we start.
Let's do it to it.
Okay.
Man, it looked like we were going to get some duds on Sunday, and I think we got maybe the biggest batch of exciting games in one day that we've had all season. A great week in the NFL, and we are officially, as of now, at the halfway point of the season. 9 weeks and 9 weeks to go, and then it's all about the playoffs, baby. Officially in the back half of the season. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by that Sultan of Spice, Mr. Peter Strauss. What's going on, man?
Just like a blink of an eye, half the season is already
crazy.
gone.
Goes by too quick.
I've made an observation about us as we've started this episode. We are in the same room.
We are.
You are wearing a beanie and a hoodie, like you're cold over there.
I'm just chilling. It is November.
I'm just wearing a t-shirt.
I'm trying to get in the spirit.
It's because my body is full of spice all the time.
Plus, this is not just any shirt over here, buddy. Last Wednesday, as we mentioned on the pod, we tried to wrap it up quick because there was a pivotal Game 5 of the World Series happening. And what happened in that Game 5? My Texas Rangers finally got it done. They got a World Series championship for the first time in franchise history. And, you know, I had to get a couple shirts commemorating what an exciting and wonderful event took place last week.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I watched that game with you, and I'm not normally, first of all, I can't follow baseball year round. It's too many games.
It is
162 is too much. And Kansas City isn't good in baseball, so I just kind of like.
I mean, they were 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah, and it was great. I still didn't follow them year round, but I watched them win the World Series, and that was awesome.
Yeah, it is a lot. I'm at a point now to where if the Rangers aren't doing great, I will still watch probably a game, at least a game a week. And by watch, I mean kind of passively watch it. When they're doing well, I will watch multiple games a week. So it all kind of depends.
But in my baseball experience, I normally don't like pitching battles. But that Game 5, watching, and I don't know his name, the pitcher for Texas,
Nate Eovaldi,
inning after inning, having multiple runners on base, just getting out of it.
Stressful.
It had to be the most stressful thing. Like, and I get it. And like when the Chiefs first made it back to the Super Bowl a few years ago, that was the first time in my lifetime that it happened. They won the one back in the 60s, whatever. But who really counts those? Unless you're like the Packers or something. And so when we were down by 10 points at halftime, like it was really stressful. But that was us all season. So, but to capture that moment was cool too. The last pitch. I don't know if we posted it on social media, but if you like big reactions to things, this man after that final strike, woo.
Well, it's in the Discord. It's on at least my Instagram. So yeah, it's out there. It's out there in the ether on the social media somewhere. But yeah, just a great event, and then follow that up with a good week of football, man. Sunday had some good games, but hey, we're gonna switch things up this week. We're kind of at the halfway point, and what we did last year, I think we might have even done it the first year, is we did some superlatives for week the mid part of the year. Sorry, my camera is gone over here, so I'm trying to figure that out while also talking, and it's a lot going on at once. But yeah, so we're gonna do some mid-season superlatives, not quite like mid-season awards, going through the same thing that we did in the preseason of like MVP, offensive rookie, defensive rookie, all that. We switched it up a little bit, made it a little bit more fun sounding at least. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7 of them, 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah, give or take.
And we're gonna just jump into them. I don't know which one to start with.
Well, I feel like the first one that you texted me is probably one we agree on. So
which one did I text you first?
Fresh face.
That is a good one.
I feel like that's one we probably both agree on. I would be shocked if you also did not pick this player.
So for best fresh face, we're combining all rookies. We're not, separating them between offensive, defensive, any of that. It's all rookies. Who is the best fresh face? Who do you have?
I mean, I have the guy who, and I don't know if this is a superlative we're still doing, but spoiler alert, just had game of the year with CJ Stroud on the Houston Texans.
Yes.
This 14-1 touchdown ratio.
Yeah.
Touchdown interception ratio in his first season on a team that doesn't really have weapons. Like Nico Collins and Tank Dell were really nobody before this season. And Robert Woods has been out. I can't remember who their tight end. Dalton Schultz is like probably the best weapon they have, and he's been a little quiet this season. But
and like the offensive line, for as good as it's been, it's not really a good offensive line.
Right.
For like as well protected as he has been, like it's not a good offensive line planning for him. So that's a lot of credit to him for being able to feel the pressure, escape the pressure, whatever, keep plays alive. He's having a monster year. He's on pace for, at this point, because they've only played 8 games. They already had their bye week. He's on pace for 62% completion percentage, which is a little low. That's a little bit on the low side. Hope to get that up a little bit. But 4,824 yards, 30 touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. That would be like a historically good rookie season.
Yeah, there's only one player that's had more passing yards, because like he's not top 5 in passing yards right now, but that's only because he's played one less game.
He's close.
He is 7th, but he's going to pass Kirk Cousins this week because Kirk Cousins is out for the season, unfortunately.
Yep.
And I mean, besides one name, the rest of the top 5 or top people ahead of him are like MVP candidates. You have Jalen Hurts 5th, Josh Allen 4th, Patrick Mahomes 3rd, Sam Howell somehow 2nd, and Tua still holding the top spot, but he's only 350 yards ish behind Tua.
Yeah,
and I mean, he's averaging 283 yards a game. So
we'll get into it in a little bit when we get to our mid-season MVP picks. But if he has those numbers at the end of the year, and the Texans sneak into a playoff spot, which isn't a crazy thought right now, he should 100% be in some consideration for MVP. 100%. Which, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever won MVP their rookie season, but I mean, he's playing straight up like one for sure.
And yeah, the Texans and the playoff standings right now are in the 9th seed, only one full game behind the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep.
Bengals are 5-3, Texans are 4-4. Bills sitting between them at 5-4. But who are technically a full game behind Cincinnati because they lose that tiebreaker also. So
Yeah, the tough thing with the Texans is their defense has been inconsistent, and they've lost at least 2 games that they should have won, which that was the one against Atlanta and the one against Carolina. Both of those games were 2-point losses. They could have easily won those games and probably should have. And if they had, they'd be sitting at 6-2 right now, tied for Jacksonville in the lead of that AFC South. So they're a little bit inconsistent, losing games they shouldn't lose, and the defense is allowing more points than it should. So that's the tough thing for them currently. But they have a fairly manageable schedule throughout the rest of the season. They go to Cincy to take on the Bengals, then they get the Cardinals, then they get the Jags, then they get the Broncos. They have to go to New York to take on the Jets, go to Tennessee to take on the Titans, then they get Cleveland, get the Titans, go to Indy to take on the Colts.
Yeah, the only defenses I'm scared of are the Browns and the Jets in that schedule. The Bengals have been picking up a little bit defensively, but I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about the Bengals and our superlatives, but I mean, it's just like last year. They played poorly the first month, and then October they figured it out, and they're like in the top 3 teams of the AFC again automatically.
There's at least 6 of those games that they could win. 3 of them I'm writing off probably right now as probably losses, and that's the Bengals, Jags, and Browns, although the Texans did beat the Jags, so who knows. But those 3 I would count as losses right now. The other 6, I think they could win. So we'll see what happens.
It'll be a fun time down the stretch.
What should we go to next? You want to do most likable player?
Yeah.
Who you got?
I don't know if this is a spicy take or not.
Oh, man.
He's not a position player. You could argue that he is adjacent to one of the most famous football players in the league right now. I think likable, I got to go with Jason Kelce. Now, because you could say Travis, but Travis,
that's a good one.
Travis with Aaron Rodgers has made some enemies, being Mr. Pfizer and all that. Like, a lot of people don't like him now, and a lot of people think Taylor Swift is annoying and don't like that dynamic of Travis either.
Yeah.
As much as I think Travis is awesome in every aspect, I get that he might not be perceived publicly as the best. But Jason Kelce had that documentary on Prime, which if you haven't watched is awesome. It's an awesome look into the original idea behind it was like seeing a player who is like about to retire, but watching him go through this year, the first year of his podcast with Travis being in the Super Bowl against Travis and with his mom being in the spotlight and all that with his family and how important this man is to Philadelphia. Like, I've never seen one person embody a city that they play in, I think, as like a not like skill player, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Than Jason. I mean, this man's singing, like, he and the offensive line are coming up with Christmas albums for a charity in this town. They're doing another one this year.
Well, he's played for Philly his entire career, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He hasn't played anywhere else, and he's been in the league for what?
He really, a lot of people don't credit him for this, but he made Super Bowl parades a thing when he did that speech in the mum suit.
Yeah.
Like that. If you haven't watched that speech, it's incredible. And I think that's really what kicked off like the Super Bowl parade being like an event. Like,
maybe. How long he's been there? What, since like the late?
He got drafted by
right?
Reed, so he's been there at least like 10 seasons, I think.
I think more than that. I want to say close to 15. Which, I mean, that's a hell of a career. So
yeah, for probably, I mean, for centers to have like this much attention and already like, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer for sure as a non-position player.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one. I didn't think about him. I went kind of recency bias on this one, and this is a guy that I feel like everybody outside of maybe the fans in Atlanta are rooting for this guy just because of the story that he's had this year, and that's got to be Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs went to the Cardinals like a week before their first game and kind of put on a show out there in Arizona. They didn't win a lot of games with him. They had one big one over the Cowboys, inexplicably. But he did a lot of good things for them out there. When the trade deadline came, he got traded to the Vikings. And came in literally as the backup quarterback on Sunday. Was not expecting to get into the game. Their rookie quarterback goes down with a concussion. He comes in not knowing the playbook at all. Kevin O'Connell is literally having to explain plays to him in his headset as they're called in real time, and somehow gets the win. I mean, it's hard not to root for a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, did you hear what they announced his nickname? Because this guy's also like, he works at NASA, like in the off season, because like he's not normally a starter, so it's not normally a big deal. Like football's like a part-time job. Like he's a physicist at NASA. You know what they call him in NASA?
Now what we got?
The Pastronaut. And like honestly, like that's cool. Like the name is super cheesy, but like being credited by NASA in that way, like what other football players doing that? It's a super cool story. I'm wondering if like at his first week at Arizona, if he's going to try to get somebody a Vikings Joshua Dobbs jersey and they're not going to have it like available.
I mean, they're gonna have to start printing them soon. I mean, he definitely showed up and got them the win on Sunday in a very good back and forth game against Atlanta. Which
he was going to be my best at the booth this week if we were to do it.
Which is fair.
Just this week against Atlanta, 20 of 30 for 158 yards, and that's he didn't play the whole game. He came in middle of the first quarter. 66.7% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Also, really on the ground is where he came alive. 7 carries, 66 yards, and another touchdown. Like, the Falcons were not ready for Joshua Dobbs, even though I think the Falcons, had they played the Cardinals already? No, I'm thinking of somebody else.
I don't think so.
It was Washington that they lost to that I'm thinking of. Still, though, they were not ready for Joshua Dobbs, and even Blake's going to say, oh, well, they didn't have tape on Joshua Dobbs. He's been on the Cardinals all year. So.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward for the Vikings with him at the helm, because I think that he's a capable quarterback. Obviously, I don't see them making a deep run in the playoffs, but getting to the playoffs, that's definitely attainable in the NFC. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
If we were to do an actual legit or counterfeit this week, that's what I was going to do, is like go through the playoff seeding and kind of see, because at this point in the AFC, outside of the 7 seeds, there's like 5 or 6 teams that I'm still like, yeah, they have a shot to get in there.
Yeah.
The NFC, there's like outside the top 7. So Minnesota's the 7th seed right now. The Commanders are 8th. The Falcons are 9th. And that's really it. Maybe the Buccaneers 10th. Maybe. But
maybe.
That's it. Like the NFC is very wide open as far as that 7th playoff spot goes, at least. So Joshua Dobbs is definitely, I think, their best chance of getting there right now.
Well, let's jump over to Class Clown, because this kind of leads into mine. Class Clown, this is kind of an obvious one, but it's the biggest disappointment of the year. My Class Clown is going to Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons. And I know that... Woo!
You good?
Yeah. Listen, I'm dealing with some kind of sinus bullshit.
Whoa, you're going to have to bleep yourself out.
Yeah, I'm just going to edit it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons. I know Blake is probably 100% going to agree with me on this, because he was going off about Arthur Smith on Sunday in the aforementioned game against the Vikings, and rightfully so. The play calling has been questionable. I don't think that he's using the talent on that team to the best of their abilities. I think he waited way too long to make the jump from Desmond Ridder to Taylor Heineke. I just think there's a lot of questionable moves being made by him, and the team as a whole has been a huge disappointment. They're sitting at 4-5 on the season, and this is a team that could easily be much better than that. And I know I had high hopes for them. I think there was a lot of people going into the season that had higher hopes for them, and they just haven't met those expectations. So I have to give my class clown to Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons as a whole.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know what's happened the last few weeks where, like, it seemed like Bijan Robinson was getting used decently in the first, like, quarter of the season.
And then they just stopped.
Yeah, and then after he got sick, it's like Arthur Smith was like, if you don't want to play, you're not going to play.
Well, what's weird is, like,
and he shaved his mustache.
It's
like,
not
screw
just
that guy.
It's not just Bijan that's there. Like, they also have a very good second running back in Tyler Algier. Look at what Tyler Algier did last year. Like, he could very easily be a featured back on that team. So it's not like you have to just use Bijan. You can use a combination of the two. And it's been weird the way that the lack of usage that you've seen of those two guys.
Yeah. And I mean, there's been Kyle Pitts for the last 2 years. Just
the disappointment of Kyle Pitts is, it's huge.
Yeah,
and then like
top 5 pick tight end to not do what he's good at.
It's rough. And then, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people that are excited about Drake London, but you can't get Drake London the ball if you don't have a passer. And really, up until last week when they made the move to Heineke, I don't think they really had a competent passer in there. And still,
Drake London was hurt last game, so Heineke hasn't got the throw to him yet.
Right. Who you got?
Yeah. I don't know if this one is necessarily fair because they haven't had their starting quarterback the last like 3 or 4 weeks. But I mean, the first 4 or 5 games with the Bears were just like a gut punch for a team that had a lot of hope. And I know Devin's over there saying he didn't have hope. I didn't have as much hope in the Falcons as people did. So,
but there was
not a surprise there.
A lot of people that had hope.
There were a lot of people, myself included, that thought the Bears were. I didn't think they had a shot at the division, but I thought they had a shot of not being last place in the division, and they still do.
Sure.
But I think there are people who, I mean, I wouldn't have been shocked before the year started. Like, I thought Chicago could have been a wild card team with how open the NFC is.
Yeah.
That is not the case anymore. And I understand, again, Justin Fields been out for a few games, but Justin Fields had 2 good games out of the 5, I think, that he started.
Yeah.
Double check here.
But he was heating up right when he got injured. So
yeah. So I'm hoping maybe calling them a disappointment now. Maybe they'll heat back up and at least win me my bet so that Devin has to buy a Justin Fields jersey. Because they're still only 1 game behind. And if Justin Fields come back and wins games, I don't think he's playing this week just because it's a short week.
I think the way we're going to have to do this is the amount of wins with Justin Fields versus the amount of wins that the Packers have with Jordan Love.
Yeah. So right now there's only 1 win without Justin Fields. Justin Fields won 1 and Bagent won 1. Bagent might win another this week. I don't know. Regardless, though, I think there was just a lot of faith in that team, and the gut punch that was the first 4 games really of the season for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, not even against like great teams. Like they played the Packers, who looked good that game but don't look good anymore. They played the Buccaneers, who have been okay. They played the Chiefs, who are obviously
the top, Chiefs.
One of the top teams in the league. They barely lost to Denver, who's an awful team. Although maybe making a turnaround now. We'll see. The only team they beat was Washington, which is an anomaly, I feel like, because Washington is like up and down all season.
For sure.
and then the game he got hurt against the Vikings. So yeah, so 5 or 6 games of just like utter disappointment with one like adrenaline shot of hope at the end.
Yeah.
So hopefully, again, they pick it back up. I think a lot of the blame is on Eberflus too, but I don't think Eberflus is going anywhere as long as they can put the blame on Justin Fields. So
Yeah, I agree. So let's do a fun one here. This one, I believe last year when we did this, we did cutest couple. Any two, any group of 2 players from a team, whatever. But I know specifically there was an episode that we titled Talking Cute Thruples. And so, going based off of that, we're doing cutest thruple, which would be any trio of teammates on a team. So, for me, I'm going with a trio from the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, and A.J. Brown, because they are all 3 in the top 5 for yards in their respective categories. There was really only one other team that I thought of for this, and I hope you took that team. If not, we'll have to at least mention them. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown have been fantastic for Philly. I do think Philly, I still don't think that offense is operating at its full potential like what we saw last year. And so if they can hit that next level, I mean, it could be game over for the rest of the NFL because they're sitting on top with the best record currently, and a lot of it comes down to their offense, which is led by these 3 guys. So that's what I had to pick.
what's the other team that you thought of?
The Dolphins.
I see.
With Tua, Tyreek, and Raheem Mostert.
I see. I also picked A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and DeAndre Swift. The weak link for Miami, I feel like, is Raheem Mostert. Like, he's still been great, but he's
in the top 5 for yards. He's like 50 yards behind the leader in yards, in rushing yards.
Yeah, I just know that I feel like a lot of his success, and this might be unfair of me to say, because I know DeAndre Swift is kind of also in a committee, but like when Achane was there for the first couple games, like Achane was more of the guy. Like we wouldn't be talking about Raheem Mostert if Achane didn't go down. We would be talking about Achane. Like,
sure, but you could plug either one of those guys in as that third slot. Like Raheem Mostert is 47 yards behind Christian McCaffrey for the most rushing yards in the NFL.
And then the other thing I took into account was how they've performed, because Lakitu might be onto something with Miami not being able to beat teams with winning records. And I kind of took that into account too, like how they performed versus good teams. Like Tyreek Hill only held to 62 yards this week. I think Tua had less than 200 yards. And I mean, Kansas City's defense is really good, but like if you want to be a Super Bowl contender, you have to play well against the really good teams.
Yeah. But I'll say this, like the reason why I consider them as the cutest is because they are probably the most fun to watch offense in the league.
That's fair.
And I don't feel that way about Philly, again, only because I don't think Philly is playing at its full potential still. Even sitting at 8-1, like they're not the same offense that we saw last year. That was just like lighting it up. And I feel like Miami is that. And so while they haven't done it in the big games against Buffalo, against Kansas City, I still think that they are one of the most fun teams to watch offensively.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just went with the team that won more games. I feel like those 3 guys, just any time, like they're still making plays, like especially AJ Brown, who could, and I know we're gonna get to like Homecoming King or whatever in a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if either of us are gonna talk about him there, but I mean AJ Brown at this point, if you look at non-quarterbacks, like I mean MVP, because there is potential, I feel like, this year for a non-quarterback to win MVP. A.J. Brown
Yep.
could be in that conversation. I mean, he had
Yep.
over 125 yards in, 4 or 5 straight games?
Yeah.
Something ridiculous like that.
I
Did he do it this week against Dallas? No, not quite.
I don't know if he did this year. I mean, he's 71 yards behind Tyreek for most yards in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, and I'm looking at the receiving yardage leaders now, and I can't believe we forgot about this person for best fresh face. So I do want to do an honorable mention now for Puka Nacua of the LA Rams, who nobody saw this guy doing what he's doing in the NFL. Just having a monster season, 827 yards. Doesn't have the touchdowns to go with it, but the yardage is insane for a rookie. He's 4th in the league currently, yardage-wise, which is phenomenal. So shout out to him.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do King of the League, which this is, again, it's pretty obvious. This would be our midseason MVP pick. Who do you have as the king of the league after 9 weeks?
Teased it a little bit. Going with a non-quarterback.
I like it.
I think I got to go with Run CMC, who I know their team is on a 3-game losing streak, but in total yards, so he's, first of all, first in rushing at 652. And then when you throw his receiving yards on top of it, he is almost at 1,000 yards halfway through the season. So he's on pace for about 2,000 total yards.
Yeah.
For the season. Also, I believe is tied for first in total touchdowns, 9 rushing, 4 receptions. Funny enough, maybe I should have picked the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert also with 13 total touchdowns. But in one less game than Raheem Mostert has played.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is doing everything he can to keep the 49ers alive in those games. He's had a touchdown in every single game, I believe, since he joined the 49ers, except the first game he was in against the Chiefs, and then they went on their massive winning streak.
Right.
Try to double check that here.
It is crazy what he's been able to do in San Francisco in the time that he's been out there, which I think we all knew that he was capable of doing that, but he was always injured in Carolina, and so we just kind of expected more of the same out in San Francisco, and he's been healthy, and he's been putting on an absolute show.
He's scored a touchdown in every game since, at least regular season, since December of last year. So it's almost been
almost.
Yeah. It's been 11 months since he's had a game without a touchdown.
That's crazy.
And he did have touchdowns in all 3 of his postseason games too. So
good for him.
Just a menace, which also shockingly for running backs in San Francisco, as able to stay healthy, knock on wood there.
Yeah.
Just I mean, this guy can do it all, and I don't think the 49ers would be where they are right now without him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely an argument that he is the most valuable piece on that team of valuable pieces. So, yeah, I like the pick. Mine isn't as fun as that one. I went with the quarterback because it is usually a quarterback award. And I'm going with the quarterback with the best stats, although, as we've pointed out, the Dolphins seemingly can't win the big game. And so if that trend continues, I think his name, that's going to have to be synonymous with his name. And so you do wonder how voters will feel about that. But I'm going with Tua because he's on pace for 69.5% completion percentage, which is a ridiculous number. That's very good. 4,928 yards, just shy of 5,000. 38 touchdowns, 14 picks. 14 picks is a little high. I feel like I'm used to the Aaron Rodgers numbers with interceptions when it comes to MVPs. I want to say that the times that Mahomes has won MVP, he had single-digit interceptions. I know that Rodgers did the times that he won. So I do want to see my MVPs have low interception numbers. I think 14. When you're averaging almost an interception a game, I feel like that's a little too high. But really good season from him, leading the most explosive offense in the league, at least against mid to bad teams. So we'll see what happens, but I like him for king of the league through 9 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, even in their losses, he didn't play horrible in those games.
Right.
The Bills, he still threw 282 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Philadelphia, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick.
Yeah.
Both of those pretty decent completion percent, 71.4 and 70. So actually pretty high completion percentages for those games. Against Kansas City, only 193 yards and 61% completion, only 1 touchdown, but no picks to Kansas City that game.
Yeah.
I think the only turnover that whole game actually was which was an awesome play if you didn't get a chance to see it. The strip on Tyreek Hill, the scoop and lateral, as we'll call it, as they stripped it from Tyreek Hill. I think McDuffie picked it up. I can't remember who picked it.
It was a hell of a play.
Yeah, either McDuffie stripped it or picked it up, but they had the wherewithal to pitch it to Brian Cook, who ran it straight down the sideline to get the game-winning touchdown. Didn't know at the time it was.
Right.
But yeah, Tyreek Hill, even through the losses, has played well. I think the losses are more so the running game and the defense, which the running game is part of the reason why I went with the Eagles trio instead of the Dolphins trio. But I think Tua is on pace if they're going to choose a quarterback. I think he has the best numbers right now, at least. So
yeah, I agree. But I do think that if there was a year that a non-quarterback wins it, it could very easily be this year. Just because I don't think there's any, like, there hasn't been a standout quarterback that's like miles ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, because every quarterback kind of has a flaw. Honestly, like if they love the touchdown to interception ratio, like CJ Stroud is probably going way up in the votings. Yeah,
this is what I'm saying. If we get down to the end of the year, and what both of these guys are on pace for, they hit, or at least hit something close like that, and the Texans sneak into the playoffs somehow, that's not crazy. I think they could go 6-3 over the last 9 games, and if they do that, they would be 10-7, which probably gets you in the 7th seed. It's gonna be tough with those 4 teams from the AFC North, but it's possible. So if that happens, and he hits the numbers that he's on pace for, it's a 104-yard difference between Tua and CJ, and it's 8 less touchdowns, but also 12 less interceptions. It'd be a 15-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's bananas.
I don't think that will continue. I do think he'll probably throw some more picks over the end of the season, but I don't think that him finishing somewhere around like 6 to 7 picks on the season is that crazy. I think that's very manageable for him. So we'll see what happens, but I think at this point, again, if he hits the stats that he's on pace for, he has to be in the mix. He has to be.
Yeah, as far as doing your job as a quarterback, he's been doing the best job of protecting the football. Tied for 7th in touchdowns, essentially first in interceptions, or last in interceptions, however you want to look at that stat.
Yep. Yep, I agree. All right, last one. Most likely to succeed. So As of right now, who are you picking to win the Super Bowl, to be holding the trophy second weekend of February? Who's the most likely to succeed? Who you got?
You know dang well who I'm picking for this.
Listen, man, I just want you one of these weeks to just be honest with yourself. And I'm not saying that the Chiefs can't do it, because I like the Chiefs. I think they're talented enough to do it. And I'm not going to ever count out Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But this is not the same Chiefs offense that it's been over the last 5 years
It
of
doesn't
this
need to be.
dynasty.
It does not need to be
that might
this
be true.
season.
That might
it
be
does
true.
not need to be. This team is still growing offensively a little bit. They
I
think
more than a little bit.
teams are realizing that if you put all the pressure on Travis Kelce, then the other receivers still haven't quite stepped up how we would like them to see. Rashee Rice is really the only one that's kind of become a little bit more reliable, and even he had a drop not last week but the week before, I think. But this defense is still just playing lights out. I think I would say definitely top 3 defense in the league, Kansas City Chiefs right now.
I don't know about top 3, but they're up there. Yeah.
Only one game allowing more than 20 points. And that was with the offense having 5 turnovers and giving awful field position.
Yeah.
I think scoring-wise, they're the best defense. Let me see if I can... Where's points allowed? I don't see that as a stat that I can sort by. That's rude. Oh, because this is player stats. I need team stats.
So
defensive leaders, yards allowed, sacks, turnovers. I need points allowed.
just because I do think that it is of importance for
Chiefs.
this.
Sorry, Chiefs are 4th in points allowed. Which 2 teams ahead of them, the Browns and the 49ers, have played 1 less game. The only team that's ahead of them that's played all 9 are the Baltimore Ravens. And Chiefs are 2nd in points per game at 15.9, behind also the Ravens, who are at 13.8.
Okay. Yeah. What I was gonna say, just because I think it's of importance for this Kansas City Chiefs team. The Super Bowl is being played on Sunday, February 11th, 2024. On Saturday, February 10th, 2024, Taylor Swift will be in Tokyo, Japan. So I'm not saying she can't make it to the Super Bowl, but I mean she's gonna be traveling if she wants to get there.
The Chiefs got to win without Taylor Swift this week. All right, Taylor and Brittany Mahomes.
Barely.
By the way, Brittany Mahomes, I saw on TikTok, comeback player of the decade, walking around New York City, holding hands with Taylor Swift in an entourage with Selena Gomez and Sophie Turner.
That's a glow up.
Brittany Mahomes living the life. Just keep Jackson out of it, and it's all good. It's all good. But no, we won without her this week. Taylor Swift is going back on her international tour. She goes to South America this week. So they're going to have to keep playing without her. I think they'll be fine. Travis Kelce's just getting defended more because there's not enough talent around him to take pressure off of him yet. Rashee Rice had a touchdown this week. Sky Moore had a couple really good routes where he got open. Hopefully he's starting to break out a little bit. But if the defense... all the defense has to do is give Mahomes a chance, and they've never done that better than they have this year. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. You can look at the offense and see a drop-off in offense. I see it too. I'm not delusional. But the balance of the offensive drop and the defensive gain, I think, still keeps them at the top. The only team I'm like really, really worried about, there's maybe 2 or 3. The Ravens have
The
blown
Ravens you should
out.
definitely be worried
The
about.
the Ravens have blown out every good team they've played. I don't think we play them in the regular season. I think that's a playoff game if that happens. The Bengals are picking back up, and if we meet them in the Super Bowl again, the Eagles. Those are like the main kind of worry teams. But
What's crazy?
I think just you give Mahomes a chance in the big games, and he pulls through. So as long as the defense gives him a chance to get there, we'll figure it out.
What's crazy is that the best record in the NFL belongs to a team in the NFC, in the Philadelphia Eagles. And we both picked AFC teams for our most likely to succeed. You went with the Chiefs. I thought about the Ravens. I think the Ravens are playing as good a football as anybody else currently. But I also think this team is too. And they started the season very rough. And I'm picking the Cincinnati Bengals as most likely to succeed. I just think they're starting to get things rolling in the right direction. They've won 4 in a row after starting 1-3, and those 4 wins weren't against nobodies. They went up against the Seahawks, who are sitting at I think 5-3 or 6-3 currently, looking like a good team in the NFC. They went up against the San Francisco 49ers, beat them by 2 touchdowns. Went up against the Buffalo Bills, beat them by 6 points. Like, they're handling their business against good teams, top teams in the NFL, and we'll see just how legit they are in 2 weeks when they play the Ravens. But I think they're playing as good a football as anybody, and I think they're back to being that top team in the AFC that we expect them to be, one of the top teams in the AFC like we expect them to be. And I fully expect them to make the playoffs and possibly meet up with the Chiefs again. And we'll see what happens. I do think if there's one team that has been a little bit of Kansas City's kryptonite over the last couple of years, it is Cincinnati.
Yeah, they've been a pain in the bleep.
Yeah.
I bleeped it out for you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So
I'm over here salivating just thinking of the matchup between Cincinnati and Kansas City in the playoffs.
It's a shame that can't just be the Super Bowl every year. Like, I mean, it was an all-time. I shouldn't say that. The Super Bowl against the Eagles this year was an all-time
very good
classic, right? Like, with the wind sucked out of you because of a call by the referees that probably shouldn't have been called, that robbed us of a potentially great ending.
I mean, honestly, outside of the fumble by Jalen Hurts, you're looking at potentially MVP of the Super Bowl going to a guy on the losing team.
Yeah,
because he played his butt off in that game.
Yeah,
that's the best. It's the single best game I've ever seen Jalen Hurts play, by far. So I wouldn't mind a rematch because that was a lot of fun. However, more times than not, the rematches don't quite live up to the hype of the first one. But yeah,
we'll see. They do have a regular season game this year, so Super Bowl rematch in the middle of the season, I believe, in December. So
yeah, I'm here for it. Well, let's put the first half of the season in the rear view. We're moving on to the back nine, and let's get picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
For the record, I am now 84-52 in picks. Where are you sitting?
Also 84-52. We disagreed on 4 games and we split them. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get the bye weeks out of the way. We got the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Rams, the Miami Dolphins, and the Philadelphia Eagles all taking the week off this week, so we won't see them in action. But We have a couple of good ones in the afternoon and a lot of bad ones in prime time. Whoever made the schedule, shame on you for giving us these matchups this week. Now, I get it. I understand that for Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, the teams playing there, we're all supposed to be a lot better than they are. But what is this Thursday Night Football matchup? What is this Thursday Night Football matchup?
What do you mean? This is a traditional Thursday night football matchup.
I feel sorry for Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit to keep getting these bum games. Starting us off on Thursday night over on Amazon Prime at 8:15, we have the Carolina Panthers, the 1-7. Let me remind you, 1-7 Carolina Panthers heading into Soldier Field to take on the 2-7 Chicago Bears. Chicago somehow 4-point favorites at home. I will say this, Justin Fields is questionable. Maybe he returns. If he returns, that's obviously a boost in the right direction for this Bears team. Somehow, I'm taking Chicago in this one because Carolina is stinky poo-poo. I don't like this game. I'm probably going to watch approximately 0% of it. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I did check injuries here. I just don't know if Fields is going to play because it's such short notice. Because I think if they play against Bagent, that I think the Panthers can do it. Panthers did beat a good Texans team in their one victory.
I don't know how that happened. I'm going to throw that out as an anomaly because I don't know how it happened.
I think I'm going to go ahead and get a disagreement here with you. I'm going to go with Carolina. I'm solely banking on Justin Fields not playing.
Even if he doesn't play, I think the Bears have a good chance.
I was thinking about it because Montez Sweat already was making his presence known in Chicago, but I think the Bears defense is still not great enough to where Bryce Young can maybe get something done. Adam Thielen had 0 catches this week, so I think he's going to come back and have a comeback game this week too. I'm going to go with Carolina, and I'm going to mark that as a disagreement.
All right. Well, let's move over to Sunday where we have another German game. We have the Indianapolis Colts going up against the New England Patriots over in Frankfurt, over in Germany. Indy, 2-point favorites over this Patriots team. I don't know. I feel like this is more of a coin flip game than it should be. I think the Patriots, there's a lot of bad going on there. I think the Colts, there's a lot of good, but it's also like a bit of a toss-up just because they're not playing consistently. But give me Indy in this one. I like the Colts over the Patriots. Who you got, man?
I would first like to say how much I appreciate the Frankfurt crowd. Didn't realize, I knew there were a decent amount of Kansas City fans in Germany for some reason, but I mean, that place sounded not quite as loud as Arrowhead, obviously, but I mean, the chop, anytime they did the chop, it was insane how loud that place was. For, the first time ever, right? This is the first time they've ever played in Germany.
I think so. At least the first time in a long time.
Chiefs are also the first team to win in 5 different countries. So
that's an interesting little stat.
Yeah. Because, United States, England, Germany, Mexico. I can't remember where the other one was right now. But it was 5. It was 5 countries.
Did they have a weird game against... I know the Bills used to go up to Toronto and play.
Maybe they did do Canada.
I don't know where else it would have been over in Europe. Yeah, I don't know right now. Off the top of my head.
I'll see if I can look it up while you're doing your next bit. But,
get me those stats. Let's move on to
I didn't make my pick yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. What's your pick? Sorry.
I was going to say, I know there were a lot of Tom Brady fans in Germany, and that's why I think they played in a different city in Germany last year. I think they did go to
Munich?
Germany, but it wasn't Frankfurt.
Probably Munich.
Yeah. So I don't know if that'll help the Patriots at all. I don't think it'll matter. I'm also going with the Colts. Minshew mania. Let's let
keep
it
it
run
going.
wild.
Let's keep it going. Let's move on to a couple of perennial playoff teams, old franchises. We have the 3-5 Green Bay Packers heading into Pittsburgh to take on the 5-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't really know how I feel about this game. It's a rematch, obviously, of the last Super Bowl that the Packers won, but neither of these teams look like legit Super Bowl contenders, even though the Steelers are sitting at 5-3 and I think they're in a playoff spot or just outside of one. They're in a very crowded chase for a wild card, and they are 3-point favorites at home. I think that's fair. This Packers team, not a lot to like here. Part of me does want to pick the Packers in this one, which I don't feel good doing.
Do it. Do it.
But-
do it. Do it.
I got to go with the Steelers. Give me Pittsburgh. Who you got, man?
Wow, I can't believe you would pick against your own team like that.
It's cause I'm smart. Like I'm not blind by my affection for a team.
That's fair.
Not
I'm also
blind by
going.
my fandom.
I'm also going Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's offense isn't great, but that TJ Watt is going to. I don't know if Love's going to make it out of that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Love is going to be on his butt a lot.
Give me Pittsburgh. By the way, I was incorrect. It's only 4 countries. I don't know why I thought there
Okay.
was a 5th, but they're the first team to win in all 4 international countries that they've played in.
Interesting. All right. This next matchup is one that I am definitely looking forward to, although I could see it being a little bit of a bloodbath. I hope I'm wrong about it because I think there's a lot to be excited for in this one. And I'm talking about the Houston Texans, the 4-4, fun, frisky Houston Texans team heading into Cincinnati to take on this Bengals team that has found their identity. They're back at it. They're getting things going, and they're 7-point favorites at home. I like it. I really, really want to pick the Texans in this one, but I can't do it. I think the Bengals are just better. I think they are the better team, and I think they'll show that on Sunday. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm with you. I will be rooting for the Texans, but I'm picking the Bengals. The Bengals are back in prime Bengals form as far as it seems. They beat the snot out of the Bills. Beat the snot out of the Bills like they did in the playoffs last year. I think that's a definitive win for them to be back in full form. So give me the Bengals. Even though Jamar Chase might have a kind of big injury, they still have T. Higgins, and he's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I will definitely be rooting for Houston, but I can't pick against the Bengals currently.
yep, until they give us a reason to. Jamar Chase is day to day with a back injury, but still, Joe Burrow is looking peak Joe Burrow. He's fully healthy. He's still got T. Higgins. I think they'll be okay.
Let's make our way up to Minneapolis, where we have the 5-4 Narland Saints taking on the 5-4 Minnesota Vikings. Can the Pastronaut do it again? Can he get it done? Can he be the savior that this Minnesota team didn't see coming? On the road, the Saints 2.5-point favorites. Don't like it. I'm going with Minnesota in this one, man. I think Josh Dobbs, give him a week to learn that playbook. Give him a week to practice and actually learn the names of the guys that he's throwing to, because that was something that came out. He didn't even know the names of the guys he was throwing to. It was just like, all right, here you go. I'm tossing you the ball. I'm tossing you the ball. You go get open for me. Didn't even know who he was talking, who was catching the ball. Give me the Vikings. Who you got, man?
This was one of the harder ones to pick this week. I do really like the Josh Dobbs story. However, the Saints have also been cooking the last couple weeks. I mean, this week was against the Bears, but they still came out a touchdown ahead. They put up 38 on the Colts. Even in their loss to the Jaguars, they put up 24. I just don't know if the Vikings are going to be the defense is going to stop New Orleans with how good that offense has been the last few weeks. So I think we're going to have another disagreement here. I'm sticking with the NFC South for some reason and taking New Orleans in this one.
Yeesh. Let's go from one NFC South team to another. We have the 3-5 Tennessee Titans heading into Tampa Bay to take on the 3-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker and the boys were on the losing end of that classic game that we got to witness between the Bucs and the Texans last week. But here at home, 1.5-point favorites. Mike Vrabel has come out and said, Will Levis, you're our guy moving forward. They're rolling with Levis. Tannehill is now officially the backup QB, and I think that's the right move. I think Levis has shown that he can be a lot more successful in that offense than Tannehill was, at least currently. D-Hop looks like a much better receiver with Levis out there throwing him the ball. However, I really still like this Tampa Bay team, and I'm rolling with the Bucs. I'm rolling with Baker to continue to keep getting it done. Who you got, man?
I want Baker to get a win here. I mean, I as much as I think Tennessee has new life with Will Levis, just rolling with the NFC South again for some reason. I think Tennessee is just a little weak. I think Baker has something to prove, and I think if there's any week to do it, it's this week. So
For sure.
Tampa Bay as well.
Yep. This is another spicy matchup that I could see being a lot of fun, and that is the 5-3 San Francisco 49ers coming off their bye week, heading out to Duval to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. San Francisco, 3-point favorites on the road. Let's give some respect to the Jags. I like the Jags in this one a lot. However, I think this is going to be the bounce back that the Niners need. They kind of slumped their way into their bye week. Did not look great those last couple of games, but I think this is the week they right the ship. They get back on the right track against a good Jacksonville Jaguars team, who I think is a lot of fun, but that Niners team is just too good for them. Who you got, man?
We're disagreeing again.
Oh,
We're doing
man.
it again. I think this is the game where Jacksonville shows that they are a true contender. I think they had a lot of question marks towards the start of the season. They are currently on a roll. I think they're on a bit of a winning streak here. Let me double check that to be sure.
I am with you. I do think that this could be the week that they really cement themselves as one of the top dogs in the AFC.
Jacksonville is on a 5-game winning streak against not bad teams. I mean, 3 of these teams are playoff teams right now.
Yeah.
They beat the Falcons, they beat the Bills, they beat the Colts, they beat the Saints, they beat the Steelers.
Yeah.
In 5 straight weeks. So I think this is a game where they can truly cement themselves. If Brock Purdy's still having a little trouble, the superior Josh Allen is going to get him. I'm going to take the Jags. I just really like Duval.
I wanted to take the Jags in this one. This is another one that I might be rooting for the Jags, but I picked the Niners.
I think just with their slow start, the Jags have just been kind of under the radar. But I mean,
they definitely have.
I mean, in the standings, I don't think they're the 4th seed. I think. Let me double check. Yeah, they have. They're a half a game ahead of Miami at the 3rd seed. So
yeah,
and only half a game behind Baltimore.
Speaking of Baltimore, let's head there where we have the 5-3 Cleveland Browns coming in to take on their division rival, their former owner of the Browns franchise, the Baltimore Ravens, sitting at 7-2. The Ravens at home, 6-point favorites. I think that's fair. This is another spicy matchup this week. Red Zone is going to be popping off in the 1 o'clock hour. So make sure you have that going because there's a lot of good games going on all at the same time in the afternoon. Browns, Ravens. I think I'm going with the Ravens here. The Browns defense is legit, and they can slow down anybody, but I think the Ravens are just playing too good of football right now for that team. I'm still not trusting the Browns offense with Chubb being on, IR out for the season. Deshaun Watson in his second game back. I'm not fully on board with him yet. I do love that defense, but the offense worries me. Give me the Ravens. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about, as I was talking about the Chiefs defense being one of the best scoring defenses, the only defense ahead of them in both scoring categories are the Baltimore Ravens. And, with them for some reason starting their backup instead of PJ Walker, it's just going to be trouble for them. So give me the Ravens as well. Lakito, I hope you enjoyed us picking the Browns while we could, but that might be done for a bit.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed for now.
It really helped me last week in my Survivor pool for work where I could win $1,000 whole dollars.
Oh,
if I stay alive here.
Man.
I've started marking in my notes what teams I've picked already because you can only pick a team once per season. I haven't picked the Ravens yet, so I can still lock them in for a victory this year.
Let's head out to the desert where we have a bird fight. The Atlanta Falcons 4-5 flying in to Glendale, Arizona to take on the 1-8 Arizona Cardinals. This Cardinals team, bit of a mess right now. Bit of a mess all season. But Kyler Murray is back. He's making his first start of the year this week for them. Don't know how that's going to go for them. Kyler Murray didn't look great at times last year. Obviously, coming off the injury, things could be tough for him. It's not a good Cardinals team surrounding him. The Falcons, a mystery. I don't know what to make of them. Don't love the way they've been coached. Don't love the way that they have been calling plays. I want to root for them. I want to like them. And I'm going to pick them in this game, but I don't like it. Give me the Falcons. Who you got, man?
If you don't think Kyler Murray can do to the Atlanta Falcons what Josh Dobbs did this week with Grady Jarrett still on IR, I think you're nuts. Give me the Cardinals. I think it'll be close.
Josh Dobbs had a lot better weapons surrounding him than what Kyler Murray is going to be working with.
Yeah, but I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But I think
a better defense in Minnesota, which is weird to say, but yes, a better defense in Minnesota.
I think this is just going to be Kyler Murray's comeback game. I think a lot of his yards, I think a lot of it's going to be on the ground. I don't think he's going to be he's going to have some growing pains passing.
Maybe.
Pun intended for Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
But I got a feeling Kyler Murray's coming back and he's going to show off this week. And
I got a feeling
that Atlanta defense has just looked super weak since Grady Jarrett got hurt. So I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Okay. Listen, you want to give me wins? I'll take it. Let's head out to SoFi Stadium where we have the Detroit Lions roaring their way out to take on the 4-4 San Diego Chargers. Los Angeles. Where does San Diego? They haven't been from San Diego in a couple years. The Los Angeles Chargers. Detroit
Shame on you.
On the road, 2.5-point favorites. I like it. I love this Lions team. We all know it. I've been on this Lions squad for a couple years now. Give me Detroit in this one. Who you got, man?
Yeah, the Chargers aren't going to have the layup offense that they had this week against the Jets. If we were going to have under reviews, it would have been Robert Saleh and the inconsistency at being able to set his offensive line. Did you know the Jets have had 9 games, 9 different starting lineups for the offensive line?
I believe it.
Crazy. Anyway, I'm taking Detroit. They're fresh off the bye. Los Angeles is, I don't want to say a mess, but It doesn't feel like they know what they're doing there.
It's not good.
They're
like
just, they're
they're
just there.
they're a good team that is also not good.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is, but it is. Next game up, we have an NFC East matchup between the 2-7 New York Giants being led by, I guess, Tommy DeVito. Who knows? Going up against the 5-3 Dallas Cowboys coming off that loss to Philly. You know Dallas is going to be jacked up to play another divisional rival. And listen, Vegas knows something's going on too, because Dallas are 16.5-point favorites, which I think you could bump that up to 21 and probably be safe. This Giants team, this Giants team, not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
So you're picking the Giants?
I'm not picking the Giants in this one. Give me Dallas. I don't like picking the Cowboys. I don't love the Cowboys. I think they're good, but I don't like picking them. This Giants team, stinky poo poo. Cowboys, pretty good. Give me Dallas. Who you got, man?
I will say, if the Cowboys had been able to come back and beat the Eagles, Dak would have been my best of the booth, because this would have been the first time that he's actually been able to perform, and like at least that I've seen in like a big game situation.
Yeah.
Because like that game essentially almost seems like for the division, because if you win that, I think you got tied in record with the head-to-head tiebreaker.
Yep.
And I think that sets the tone for the rest of the season. Now you're 2.5 games behind, really, because of the head-to-head tiebreaker. But Dak doing Dak things, stepping out of bounds. And then also their tight end, unfortunately, had that one play where his knee was down right before he got in the end zone.
Yep.
On a 4th down conversion. Just some bad luck their way that game. That being said, this is my lock of the week. I don't know what I would do if the Giants won this game.
If you're really going out on a limb on this one.
I don't know what I would do if the Giants won this game. I know I'm a spicy guy, but not
that spicy.
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. Dallas is going to bring me one step closer to winning my work pool, so give me the Cowboys.
Hey, there you go. Well, let's make our way out to Seattle, where we have the 4-5 Washington Commanders heading in to take on the 5-3 Seattle Seahawks at home. Seattle 6.5-point favorites. That's probably fair, although this Commanders team has been surprising. This Commanders team has kind of come out of nowhere this year. I know there was some hype in the offseason for them, but I don't think a lot of people were truly buying into them. And while they still have a losing record, they're still not anything spectacular. I think they've shown a lot of good, especially on the offensive side. Sam Howell has been very surprising to me. The connection that he's already established between him and Jahan Dotson is I mean that's a solid connection going on there. I like where the Seahawks are at. I don't love where the Seahawks are at. So I'm going with Washington in this one. I don't know why. I just have a little bit of a feeling about it. Who you got, man?
I thought I was going to be spicy with this pick.
Ooh.
Sam Howell is second in passing yards. How does that happen?
I don't know.
I tell you how it happens. They have a guy who should be the head coach drawing up their plays.
That is what it is. Yeah.
The defense obviously a little weaker now without Chase Young and Montez Sweat, but that didn't seem to bother him last week. Granted, it was against a poor New England offense.
Yeah.
The Seahawks have looked kind of weird. Weird.
Yeah.
I think kind of fraudulent division leaders there for a second before their loss to the Baltimore Ravens this week. So, yeah, Washington, they're just fun. They're just fun to root for. Give me the commies.
I don't know if I would say they're fun to root for, but there is something likable about that team now. There's like, I mean, since Dan Snyder got the hell out of there like he should have a long time ago, there has been a sense of renewed life in this franchise that makes them at least watchable, at least you want to tune in and see them be successful. So I don't know if that equates to super likable, but yeah, whatever that is.
I think it's you just want to show positivity that they did the right thing by getting Snyder out of there. So,
are you ready for these? Are you ready for these primetime duds that we're getting?
I was born ready.
Sunday Night Football, 4-4 New York Jets head into Vegas, take on the 4-5 Las Vegas Raiders. I will say about this Raiders team, there's been a lot that's come out about Josh McDaniels.
Yo, Josh McDaniels, I said I was going to talk about this. I'll
He's a little crybaby.
I'll touch on it real quick. Yeah. So they had a air out the grievances meeting. I think the Thursday before, or the day before he got fired or something, or Thursday before.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of the players, a lot of the captains, coming out and just pooping on Josh McDaniels, saying how he does a lot of stuff wrong, just not happy with him at all.
Yeah,
understandably, he's an awful head coach.
Expressing their frustrations with him, yeah.
And Josh McDaniels tried to get some coaches to come up and talk about him, including Antonio Pierce, who is now the interim head coach.
Yeah.
And Antonio Pierce said, this place doesn't really feel like it has a culture. When I was with the Giants, we came into every game thinking we were going to win. And, we took on the 17-0 Patriots and still came into that game we're going to win, and then won that game, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And, the players were into it, got his team hyped. They seemed in a good mood. Josh McDaniels pulls him aside after and says, don't talk about the Patriots like that.
Yeah.
What? That's not your team. I get that, Bill Belichick gave you your start, but, it's not a cult. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, he was the offensive coordinator that year for them, so obviously he takes a lot of pride in it. I get that, but you're not with them anymore. You're with a new franchise that is this is your operation. You're the guy, and you have one of your coaches trying to hype up the team, trying to say, look, we need to go into every game believing that we can win. Just look at the moral of the story. Don't look at about whatever your feelings are towards your former franchise. Don't hold on to those. Just look at the moral of the story. But no, he wants to be a little crybaby. I'm so ecstatic that he's no longer the coach there.
Yeah, they're still getting paid, unfortunately, eating up a lot of that contract. But I think it was a change that needed to happen. Aiden O'Connell,
100%.
I don't know if he's the right guy to be quarterback over Jimmy G, but it's different. They're giving the guy a chance. And they got a win this week.
Well, speaking of them getting a win, listen, the Jets on the road are 1.5 point favorites. I don't give a rip about those odds. I'm going with the Raiders to get it done again because, listen, this team, last time they had an interim head coach, went on a tear. Rich Bisaccia led them to the playoffs. Now, some of that is due to Brandon Staleying it up in the final game. But led them to the playoffs, should have gotten the head coaching job, and didn't. And Antonio Pierce fired them up, got them the win on Sunday. I think he's going to get them the win again this week against the Jets. Give me Las Vegas. Who you got, man?
This was another tough one to pick. A week ago, I would have picked the Jets very easily.
Me too.
But especially with how, Max Crosby had a field day with an awful offensive line. And guess who also has an awful offensive line? Or at the very least, an inconsistent offensive line, because there's only one player that started all 9 games on that offensive line, and that is New York Jets. We saw it in their game against the Chargers. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa just had their way with Zach Wilson, and it's just going to happen to him again.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Raiders. Again, not a fan of picking the Raiders. Normally,
Me neither.
I definitely like picking the Jets more, but just something like Antonio Pierce could very well be the future coach of this team, and it seems
Definitely.
like he fits that team very well. So
Definitely. Well, let's head over to Monday Night Football, where we have the 3-5 Denver Broncos heading into Buffalo to take on the 5-4 Buffalo Bills. Buffalo kind of struggling a little bit lately. They are 7.5-point favorites over this Denver squad. Warranted. Denver is a mess. Buffalo should be a lot better. I do think the injuries on defense have hurt them a lot. But I think they're still, at the end of the year, going to be one of the best teams in the AFC. I'm taking the Bills in this one. I'm not even going anywhere near the Broncos. Who you got, man?
yeah, I know the Broncos are coming off a win against the Chiefs, and then have a bye week. And I mean, they could have a very turnover-heavy game. Josh Allen is the most turnover-prone quarterback in the league since he entered the league, and the Broncos' offense is good enough to capitalize on it. Again, as we saw against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. So if the game went that way, I would be surprised, but not as surprised as I was when it just happened to the Chiefs.
Yep.
To see them do that again. That being said, I'm still going with Buffalo. Kudos to the Broncos for getting your one big win this year. Don't know if it's going to happen 2 games in a row.
Yeah, I don't see it happening in back-to-back games for them. I feel like that game against the Chiefs is more of an anomaly than something that they're going to build off of.
I talked about that whole game. Just the Patrick Mahomes being sick brought down the vibes of the whole team, and our red zone and third down play calling, even in this game against the Dolphins. I feel like Eric Bieniemy is a big hole that we're missing. Like, I know Andy Reid is the main play caller, but there's just something missing on our, like, we used to be the red zone kings, and I feel like we just are, the play calling hasn't really changed, and teams are expecting what we're doing now. Yeah. And so we have to adapt to that. This isn't a Kansas City game. I don't know why I went over that way, but I'm taking the Bills.
Yep.
Bills are a good red zone team. That's why I mentioned that.
Give me Buffalo. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. However you are doing so, if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and click that follow and subscribe button. That way you're notified every single time that we go live, usually 8-ish on Tuesdays. Fluctuates, though. Be flexible with us. We're flexible. We change it up every now and again. But I gotta say, Pete, it's been fun sharing a garage studio-ish thing. But I'm looking forward to moving forward next week, being in 2 separate locations. That'll be a good time. But we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. We love you. Thank you. And we'll be back next week for Week 10.
Ka-chow. Next week's Week 11. You big dummy. I hope you leave that in. I don't even know.